What's up YouTube, and welcome back to the Mobile Max Car Audio channel. Today I have a new video. I'm going to be showing you how to wire up the harnesses for an Acura MDX. This applies from years 2007 to 2011, non-navigation. So if you have navigation, I'm sorry, at this current time the solution that we are working on is not available yet. It is coming, but this video is targeted at those people without navigation. So if you don't have navigation, replacing your factory radio is rather simple, I would say. You have a couple screws here that have to be removed, then here that have to be removed. Then you have a screw here and another on the opposite side that must be removed. And that will free your climate control. Once you take your climate control off, you attach the dash kit. The dash kit is this piece. It comes in black. And then you can mount your, obviously you'll mount your radio beforehand, but I'll show you a picture of that, what it looks like when it's finished. Also guys, another quick disclaimer is when you're going to replace the radio, the factory radio, with an aftermarket one, you will lose the center channel, and your radio must have 6 RCA outputs. Now, to replace this radio, taking it out of the vehicle isn't too hard. You can check our installation video. But the thing that gets a little complicated and isn't as straightforward is the wiring harness. So the wiring harnesses, we offer a DIY combo on our site, and I'll talk about that a little later. But I want to talk about your other options. So maybe you're in a different country, maybe you're seeing this video and you're trying to figure out how you can resolve with what you have. Most of the time when you're buying an aftermarket radio for an Acura of this year, the MDX, they're going to recommend you this harness, which is the HA10B, and there's also a Metro equivalent, and this will plug into this connector, but you have a large amount of wires that you're not going to use, and also they will lead to no sound. What I mean by that is once you plug that connector in, all this connector offers is power for your radio. So you have your ground, your constant power, and remote, and that's really all the wires that are here. There's one other pin, I forget what it's for, but it's not used when installing an aftermarket radio. The harness that you're really looking to interact with is this one here. This one's 32 pins, and they actually do sell a connector for this harness as well. I forget the part number. I'll post it in the video when I'm done. But the problem with that connector is that it's configured in a way that you must repin it. So our connector plugs right in like the other one I'm referring to, but all the wires are in the correct location. The other Metra or Scosh part number, I don't remember exactly who makes it, you would have to unpin the wires and pin them yourselves. You can find a guide on the forums, MDX forums, which will help you accomplish that, and that's really how people have done it in the past, or you can buy this connector and pin it yourself. But I mean, it's a little more involved for a DIYer than you would like it to be if you were trying to replace your radio. So that's where our DIY combo really comes in to save the day, because it's already pinned with the wires you need, and there's no extra wires for you to wonder what does what. So it makes the installation very friendly. And also we include the antenna adapter, which is the wire that would plug here, plug into your antenna, and go to your factory, your aftermarket radio. This is your XM connector. This connection, I believe, is for aux and a couple other things. But you're really worried about these two. Those are the ones you want to interface with when you want to replace your radio. As a quick disclaimer, as you can see here, there's no illumination trigger, meaning when you flip the switch to turn your lights on, your radio will not turn dimmer. You can tap illumination up here. One of these wires is illumination. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend just going with an aftermarket radio that has a light sensor built in, so auto dim when it senses that it's dark. Some Kenwoods, some JVCs have them. I know a lot of Alpines come with them. Some of the Android radios have them. So you have options in radios. Just keep that in mind. And if that doesn't bother you, you can always just hit the switch yourself to dim your radio. But alright guys, now that we talked about kind of what we're doing, let's actually get to it. So again, this is a rather simple install, but we do get questions about it, so I want to cover it so that people who come up with issues in the future are able to solve it themselves. Alright guys, so first I'm going to talk to you about the colors that are here in front of me. So let me get this out of here, and the harnesses that are here in front of me. So this is the harness set that comes with the AWSC-1. And in here we're going to end up unpinning all of these and leaving 3 wires, which are going to be our black, our red, and this gray with a red stripe. If we had a Kenwood or JVC, we would have to use this. You could see our Kenwood TL video to see how to put this together. I'll cover it a little briefly further in the video, but ultimately this is going to get hooked up. You're going to plug the 3.5 millimeter wire from the AWSC-1 in here, and then you're going to cut the brown wire with the white stripe, and you're going to strip the brown wire. The brown wire is the one that gets connected to your blue-yellow wire on your Kenwood or JVC, and that should really be it. But again, we'll talk about that a little later. Here we have our power connection, really, because here you have ground, constant 12 volts, switch 12 volts. So this will send a signal only when the ignition is on. Then you have all your speaker connections. So here we have your rear right, rear left, front right, and your subwoofer. And the reason these are RCAs, these go to the back of your radio. You must have a radio with 6 RCA ports. So as you can see, we have rear left and right, front left and right, and subwoofer left and right. It's okay if you have front left and right, rear and front, and only one subwoofer like some Sonys and other radios. But it is harder. It's not impossible to install it with 4. With 2, I would say it is. With 4, you're going to need a Y splitter, and it's going to be a little tricky. But I recommend that you get these 6 RCA ports so that this installation is easy as possible. And the reason why I mention that is because your speaker connections, since you have a factory amplifier in your vehicle, you're going to retain that factory amplifier. You're going to need to have space to hook all 5 of these up, and that's why the 6 RCAs are required. Now, you will find cheaper radios with like 8 RCA ports on the back, but you need to make sure they're for audio out, rear, front, and subwoofer. Those other ports that a bunch of radios have are for video in and out, aux in, aux out. So you need to realize that you need them to be audio out. And most of your standard brands are going to be configured like this. So just watch out for that. That's a big getcha when installing an aftermarket radio. You have your 5 RCAs that are going to feed a signal to your factory amp. You have your amp turn on, which you need to connect to your aftermarket radios, amp turn on. And then here your steering wheel control positive and negative. So when you hook up your steering wheel controls, your negative wire is going to be gray with a black stripe. Your positive wire is going to be gray. Your gray wire is going to go to the AWSC-1's gray wire, and your gray black wire is going to go to ground, and we'll cover that shortly. Then you have your antenna turn on. Just one wire. This hooks up to your antenna. This needs to have 12 volts. And then since we're hooking up to a Pioneer, our Pioneer harness has a couple wires we need to get rid of. But we have constant 12 volts, ground, our backup camera input for the trigger. So basically when this wire sees 12 volts, it will auto switch the screen to the backup camera. Then you have your ignition, so when you turn the key, it tells the radio to turn on. You have your illumination, which is just, dim the radio when it sees power. This puts power out to turn on any amplifiers. And then you have your parking brake, which will allow you into certain features of the radio when engaged or grounded, or if you do a bypass. But ultimately, it's to keep you safe. And then you have your speaker connections, which we aren't going to use. So I'm going to unpin this. I'm going to get this harness ready. And then I'll continue filming the video after I get those done. Alright guys, so we unpinned those speaker connections we're not going to need. I'm going to start stripping wires and connecting them. I just wanted to give you a heads up and let you know that these were removed, and the wires that we don't need from here are removed. So these are ready. These are exactly how they were before we last talked. So I'm going to start stripping wires and start connecting them together. The first wire we want to worry about is for our steering wheel controls. So again, this is the harness off the AWSC-1. And obviously you're not going to unpin these, or maybe you will, but if you don't, all you have to do is take the wires you're not using, clump them together, cut off the ends, make sure no wire is exposed, and then tape them all together and out of the way. And the same thing with your speaker wires. So really worried about our steering wheel controls, so we're going to start with that first. So you're going to grab your AWSC-1 harness, the 32 pin harness with all the RCAs, and we're going to look for our gray wire, no stripe. So this one has the stripe, that's the negative, this is the positive. And what we're going to do is we're going to twist these together. So now that does the connection for our steering wheel controls. Now this one needs to go to ground, so we're also going to twist it together with this. Now these both need to go with this ground, and then these three need to hook up to the ground on the aftermarket radio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip these next. So strip that, strip this, and we'll twist this one together as well. And now we're gonna get, so I'm gonna solder this. I'm gonna actually hook them all together, and then I'll solder it, and then I'll show you what the connections look like. But again, gray to gray, gray black to black, all blacks go together, and that's gonna take care of your ground. Now the next thing you need to fix, the next thing you need to do is your reds to reds. So reds, these two reds, the AWSC-1 harness and this harness with only 3 pins, all go together, and then these go to the red from the radio. So I'm gonna put these together here, and then we're gonna strip the red coming from the aftermarket radio, and I'm gonna put it together. So that covers red. Now let's take care of our yellow, because it's the last one on this harness. So let me just cut some shrink wrap. This needs to see either your parking brake or a bypass. Sometimes you can get away with it just seeing ground. So I'm going to put that in for this customer. He should be able to get away with just seeing ground for the model he's installing. Okay, so ignore that, but the green to ground or green to your bypass is really where it should go. We don't have illumination. I didn't take it out, but I will cut it off so none of it is exposed. Remember, the Pioneer needs an illumination switch. This does not provide it unless you wiretap that. We're not going to be doing any wiretapping, so it is what it is. Now we are going to connect our blues together. What I mean by that is these two blues are for your amp turn on and your factory antenna. They need to go to this blue white, and if you're running aftermarket subs, this blue white is going to be the remote turn on for those aftermarket subs as well. So keep that in mind, that keep in mind that this wire doesn't put on a ton, the blue wire doesn't put out a ton of amperage. So some amps that need more power than others to just turn on may not be compatible with this, but it'll be able to run your antenna and the factory amp no problem. So alright guys, those are really all the connections. It's again rather pretty straightforward. Yellow to yellow, your reds to your reds, your blacks to your blacks, just that gray black needs to go to ground, and then your grays to grays. And then again, this is the parking brake wire. I'm grounding it for the customer. Hopefully that's all the radio needs. If it needs more than that, then he'll have to cut it and install a bypass or run it to his switch. I'm also gonna give this a little bit more length, so if he does want to wiretap that wire, he can, because it is a Pioneer, so it's not going to have the auto dimming feature. But I'm going to solder this together, and then I'll show you guys what the finished product looks like. Alright guys, so all my connections are soldered, but I'm actually going to provide this customer with a complimentary parking brake bypass, so we can also demonstrate it in the video. So your parking brake bypass will tell the car that you're in park. Tell the radio that you're in park and allow you to access other features that would necessarily be locked out. On the Pioneers, the big feature that you get locked out of is erasing the Bluetooth settings. So if for some reason you pair too many phones and you need to remove some, you can't unless the bypass or the parking brake is engaged. I'm fixing it, but ultimately back to what I was saying, ground, remote turn on, parking brake. So we're gonna hook up, we'll actually do it this way so it makes the most sense. So what we're going to do is go green to green, just like so. So green to green. Alright guys, so here's how you hook up the parking bypass to a Pioneer radio. So you're going to go green to green, blue to blue, and then our last color is going to be black to black. So let me line that up. So we'll actually go to this black. Yeah, that's fine. So then black to black. And that's it, as simple as that. Now the parking bypass will take care of sending this correct signal to the radio, and you'll be able to access the features that you need to. Alright guys, so we have everything hooked up and soldered. I just want to show it to you one last time. So the wires from our AWSC-1 harness, red is going to our reds, gray is going to the gray wire from this 32 pin connector, solid gray. Then we have our black going to the black. Then for this connector, again, solid gray to the gray. Gray black goes to ground, so gray black is going to black. Then you have your amp turn on for the factory amp. So that is a blue white wire going to the blue white wire of the Pioneer aftermarket harness. Then it's also in there we have our amp turn on, our antenna turn on, and then power for our parking bypass. Also, if you were going to power up any aftermarket amps, this is the wire you're looking for. Then we have yellow to yellow, black to black, just color matching. We bypass hooked up, so green to green, and then our reverse camera we are not going to use, so we just left it as is. I'm going to now place the shrink wrap tubing over each of the connections and apply some heat and shrink them all down, tape it all up, and show you what the finished product looks like. But again guys, this is rather simple to do, but these steering wheel controls is kind of what confuses a little bit of people. And again, no illumination unless you wiretap it, so just remember that. Look for the right kind of radio so you don't have to wiretap anything. Alright guys, so that's really all it's going to take. Now I'm going to apply some tape, pretty it up, but this is pretty much it. This is going to go to the back of the Pioneer for the steering wheel controls. Here's the Pioneer harness connector that's going to plug right in. Here's our parking bypass is wired in. Our antenna, our connection to all our speakers via those RCA ports, and then our power. Again, the only thing you're lacking is illumination. You can tap it if you want. If you don't want to, you can just leave it. But here it is. Let me show you exactly how it'll plug in. This is going to go right in here. Then all your speaker connections are going to come right here. Let's actually line them up. So we have rear. So our rear is at the top. So rear right, rear left. Then we have front left, front right, and then the TL only has one sub, so you could use a Y splitter to this, or you could just put it on one. I usually just leave it on the left. And now every other connection is for your vehicle. So oh sorry, I missed this. So this one always has two. One is a mic and one's the steering wheel controls. So steering wheel controls, and then these are the connections for the AWSC-1. these are the connections into your vehicle. I'm sorry, and these are this is the connection for the AWSC-1, and then these are the connections into your vehicle. And it's really that simple. Our plug-and-play harnesses are just that, plug and play, aside from the illumination, but it really saves you some trouble. And then our DIY combo, which is what we used to put this together, is available in our store, and it'll save you some time, so you don't have to use the traditional options that are out there and rip your head out trying to rip your hair. Alright guys, so here's the finished product. We actually extended that illumination wire, and we put epoxy tap, so this goes in the top, it screws down, then the wire you want to wire tap is going to go in here, and then all you have to do is just twist this on, or twist the top on, and eventually it will pierce the wire and you have a wire tap. So this is a very simple, non-intrusive way of wiretapping, and this is what we provide our customers with if you do need, or if you do want to wiretap that manual illumination trigger. And then everything else here is taped down. So here are the connections into the vehicle, connection for the AWSC-1, our parking brake, and you see our Pioneer harness, and then of course our camera backup trigger. But alright guys, I hope this information was useful. I hope this video helped you. As always, we have plug and play harnesses, we have DIY combos and DIY kits. The only difference between the DIY kit and the DIY combo is that the DIY combo is only the harnesses. The DIY kit brings the actual dash kit that you'll need to install your radio, and then your plug and play harness is one of these, as shown here, completely made for your radio. And then we also have the complete kit, which will include this, and the steering wheel control module, the AWSC-1, like we do for the TLs. But alright guys, I hope this helped you. As always, I'm going to ask that you give the video a like. I'm going to ask that you subscribe. We have the solution for the MDXs with navigation coming. It's just not fully tested yet. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.